Hello and welcome. It's SVPod. Stanford Steve is here. Red the dog is here. He's out. Ear infection.
Oh.
Ridgebacks shake their ears a lot. Got to get in there and clean him out. But he's got something festering in there. He's fat. We just found out today Red's fat. Doesn't look fat to me.
P-H-A-T?
Thick with 9 C's. He's a big boy. Thinks he's a lap dog. He's about a hunch. Apparently he's supposed to be a little bit less than that. We're going to have to work on it. And you know how I went with Otis. I used to go to Five Guys and buy him cheeseburgers just for him. The real ones.
Otis has had more he had more Five Guys than I did.
100%.
Like that guy, he ate like a king.
I learned, and so I don't do that with this guy. So Red's just apparently fat. So we're going to have to work on that.
Come on.
Anyway, my fat dog Red with bad ears is here. And we have in our hands the most sacred document in American sports. The greatest connector in America is the bracket. Because, as we all know, ball knowers, the two of us, and people that don't watch, you're going to sit down and fill it out. And there's a lot of angst between now and First Four and Thursday, Friday. If your team's in it, when are we playing? Where are we? What's our path? Lots to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
I always try to follow your lead. Best sports fan I know. Where would you like to begin, Steve? With the good or the bad?
The good. You said you really like a bunch of stuff that the committee did. I want to hear that. This is also... Like, I knew you were traveling. Uh-huh. I didn't want to step on any toes, but like the night after the bracket, you're like the first person that texted me. So once I didn't hear from you, I'm like, oh boy, what we got? He's writing down on the card. He's got reactions. He's got footnotes. He's got that.
There's a lot of that.
So we haven't texted. We haven't talked at all, which is the first time in, we've known each other 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's.
Well, we were out. I got to give you a little bit of. We'll give you a little travel report. I'm sure you have questions.
I have a million questions.
Okay. Well, fam, we were out in Breckenridge. Spectacular. So good.
What do you stay on a ranch?
On a ranch. Stay on a lovely, lovely property right there on the mountain.
Couple acres.
No. That's just there's places you can't have. I mean, you could have acres, but the thing about me is when I travel, I always get there and I think, you know what I need here? A house. Because if I like it, I just think, well, I need a house here. I don't have it like that, but I've managed to figure out how to have some spots around I've found some spots.
Yeah.
So I get there and I'm like, gotta have a house. Well, there's a house right next to the house we were in. Apparently it's 18 million.
Oh, that's it?
18.
Like,
maybe you just.
What is it? No, like 12 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms.
It's a large spot.
Your own lift to the lift?
Not a lift to the lift, but ski out and you're right there. It was fantastic. Shout out to our girl Jane. Lovely spot.
Hell yeah, Jane.
Tremendous place. Loved it. Managed to see quite a bit of lot of tournament action last week.
Oh yeah.
So I watched a lot. Ski a lot, go hard, but when it's time to shut her down and focus, we did that.
It doesn't get boring. Skiing.
That was the question Steve had for me.
Listen.
All right, wait. The bracket talk will hold. I'll answer that. I'll wait for the travel review in a bit. But you want to know what about skiing?
Yeah. Does it get boring? Like I've never put on a pair of skis. Uh-huh. I went to Tahoe every time in college, every weekend we could. They got up early and went skiing. I'll meet you at the lodge at the bottom of the hill. I'll be there. Let's have a nice lunch and start the day. That's what I did.
You're an après ski guy.
Oh, God. Tahoe, Squaw. Come on, dude. Those places are nuts. But I've never done the Colorado thing. Like, I think of when the guys finally get to Aspen and Dumb and Dumber. Like, it's pretty plush. And everybody is now, Breck, dude. Dude, you go to Breck?
It's so good. It's so good. I love it so much. But it doesn't get boring because even if you ski the same, let's say we took the Ken Show super chair.
What?
A chair that takes you Buddy, you're beyond the fucking tree line. There's you're 13,000 feet off the above sea level.
Oh, hell no.
Mount Everest stuff. No trees, and you're like, wow. And you look down, you're like, well, the only way down is down. So you got to figure it out. It doesn't get boring because even if you're doing the same lifts and the same runs, like playing the same golf course, it's different every time.
That's another thing I hate about golf.
Take a different route every time. Stop. Got little youngsters figuring it out.
Heights don't mess with you?
The oxygen is real.
Mm.
You got to they got these little cans of oxygen. You just take a hit.
Really?
No joke. You don't have to I think it might be a tourist thing. Like, I think the locals probably look at the bozos with
take a little puff,
taking a tug of oxygen and go, look at these clowns. But it could be psychosomatic. You just think you need it, but you take a big hit of that oxygen. You're like, I'm ready to tackle the day. But it doesn't get boring. It's beautiful. We had 2 days of like 40 degrees sun, and then we had 2 days where it never stop snowing. Just snowed and snowed and snowed. It was just spectacular.
Because the snow is real.
It helps.
Right? I mean, on the East Coast.
If you learn to ski on the East Coast, you could ski anywhere. Because your skis are chattering across the ice here. You're like, then you go up there and you're just like, and the powder. Come on, it was. Anyway, watched a lot of ball. Skied quite. I need a property. Anyone's got something sub 18 million? Holler at your boy.
18.
I want to mention it now because if I forget later, it'll bother me. Giant shout out to the folks downstairs at Eric's. Spot there right on the main drive. I don't even know what the main sort of street is in Breckenridge. It's right on the main sort of.
What about snowmobiles? You got snowmobiles?
Didn't want to do that. You think Charlie should be on a snowmobile?
Well, I was thinking about you because of the scooter.
Oh yeah, no, we left that alone.
Okay,
but right there in the middle of sort of the downtown area, there's a great spot called Downstairs at Eric's. Sports bar, yes, but also like an arcade for kids. So it's the perfect spot. But because it's the perfect spot, everyone in Breckenridge is there. Big shout to my guy, OCAT, and the folks at Downstairs at Eric's. We don't come in, not herd of oxen style back in the day with my boys in Miami, but it's a lot of people. And they made room for us in a stretch where we were watching incredible games. It was when the Baylor, who would Baylor play?
Texas Tech?
Yes, the Baylor-Texas Tech game was going on. The DePaul-Creighton game was going on. The Stanford game was going on same time. And I'm just smashing.
Thursday night.
Correct. Smashing baked wings. Great people, great service. My guy OCAT's like, it's on us.
What?
Me and Air Cap. I'm like, we don't need scholarship.
You still got another night session going.
No,
Careful, OCAT.
Didn't need to do that. But again, tell us what the bill would have been. We'll make sure that the server gets what you should have gotten. I'm sure you'd rather they have it. You don't need it.
Boomer.
Day. Tremendous spot. I have real regret didn't get to the Blue Moose. That's a breakfast joint there.
Oh.
They got omelets the size of your head. Didn't get there. That's on me. That's a bad miss. Anyway, tremendous time in Breck. Watched lots of hoop though. Back to the bracket. I want to make sure I got my thank yous in.
Yeah. Good on you. What we watched, I don't want that to go by the wayside because I logged way too many hours with 3 TVs in front of me.
Well, see, that's the thing. By the time you get to now, Steve, the question is what that we saw matters because now the bracket supersedes everything, and yet what we saw also matters, doesn't it?
Did it? Did you see who played in the Big Ten title game yesterday?
Save that.
Okay. All right, let's go to what you liked about
Here's
the bracket.
what I liked.
Come on.
Love the 8-9s. Love them.
Okay. Because they could beat the ones?
Because, first of all, how's Louisville an 8? Did you watch them? That's an 8? That's an 8. Okay. Creighton's a 9? If you're 1 and Creighton, they got shooters. They got a hell of a coach. Kalkbrenner, you got to deal with that if they win. All right. You're Houston. How tough is that team? But Gonzaga's your 8-9. If they beat Georgia, Georgia's a talented, capable team. That's your 8-9, Gonzaga, Georgia. The absolute menace that is Coach Hurley and UConn on the 8-9 line with an Oklahoma team that they didn't beat Kentucky, but my God, they put the fear of everything in those Big Blue Nation folks. Holy smokes, did they fight back? Those are your 8-9 games that I look at and go, all right, never forget it's a TV show. Gonzaga, UConn being on 8-9 lines. And again, doesn't mean that they're going to win, but they could, which means you could have a Houston-Gonzaga game. You could have a Florida-UConn game. I really like the possibilities we get in the second game of the weekend in front of the ones. Go ahead.
You didn't even bring up the one that's I'm scared to death of.
Mississippi State Baylor?
Yeah.
Sure. Those teams both loaded with dudes, as Coach Sampson would call them. They got dudes. Both those teams have dudes. So I like that.
Okay. I mean, you're going through those teams. UConn won the last 2.
Correct.
Baylor's won a national title. They beat Gonzaga in that title game. Like the teams that are up there, it's insane. Kansas, are they the 7 or the 10?
7.
They're the 7. Those are the last 5 national champions. Like, that's nuts. I think the 7-10s are harder to pick. I think those are brutal. When you look at, and I mean, everyone's going to talk about Self against Cal. I get it. But New Mexico, Marquette, like you raved about Marquette after you saw them in person at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
They end up losing 10 games, and Maryland loses, what they lose, 8?
8.
Like that's when I think about this season, and everybody talks about who should get in, when did you beat teams, should it matter? And I found myself more clamoring. I used to love when the last 10 was a criteria, and they threw that out with all this new stuff that we'll get to as far as the snubs and all that. But the 7-10s, I think, are just brutal. St. Mary's, Vanderbilt in Cleveland, like, and it was great. I heard I did Field of 68 the other night, and after Fewy won, and he's like, I've tried. He's like, this has got to be 15, 20 years. He's like, I can't speed up St. Mary's. I can't do it. And think about the guards that Fewy's had. Yeah. You know? Uh-huh. And now you get Vandy, who's an SEC school, and I want to get to the SEC talk. But no, the 7-10, I mean, you're on the 8-9s. I just think the 8-9s, yes, because they're capable of beating the ones. And the idea of what these ones look like, and how I haven't seen one person not pick Florida to win the national title. I mean, we've been on that train for weeks.
All knowers.
Weeks.
I don't remember when it was. I was trying to rack my brain and think.
It was the day before they went to Georgia and lost.
Exactly what happened. Yeah, and then people like, hey, nice pick. Good pick. Hey, welcome to the party at my ass.
Did you see what that team did in Nashville? Good God.
Just steamrolled. And now, granted, Alabama gets hurt. Nelson gets hurt in that game. I don't know that it was going to matter.
No one's even mentioning that.
Who, Bama?
Not one person.
They can do it, but I tell you, they gave up 90 points like 8 times. I think I saw that stat. Mm-hmm. I get that that's a league where teams like Kentucky, like Florida, like Auburn, and I could keep going. There's a bunch of teams that could hang big numbers. That's the problem. You just can't not care about, you can score because we're gonna score more. You might not.
These teams are gonna look so different, Scott, when they're out of that conference.
I agree.
You know, like that team especially, you got Big Cliff and Steve, like those guys are specimens.
Yeah, they got.
And now you get them against Robert Morris,
Bobby Moe.
They're going to be looking over their shoulder like, where did this guy come from? And then you factor in the speed. I think the biggest thing is Phylon for them. Like, I don't know. Should he be there in crunch time? That's for another debate. What else did you love?
Well, you mentioned, like, people look at the Patino-Calipari potential matchup, but, like, it could be Patino and Self, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just coaching heavyweight in the deep end of the pool. That's a potential. I love some of the first round games. BYU VCU. Buckle up. Both ways.
It's in Denver.
Altitude. Better get you some of them oxygen things. I got some left over from the Breck trip. I might just make it a regular part of my life just to have a little oxygen thing. Just so I'll be like, hey, man, how's your oxygen? Mine? Good.
Puff, puff, give.
That VCU team, though, rugged. Shout to the Peppers. Don't start no stuff, won't be no stuff. But that is an altitude game. I mean, is the winner of that who Wisconsin gets?
Yeah.
That's a nice reward. Nice reward. Speaking of rewards, I'm going to hold the conversation about it, but how about Michigan, San Diego?
Yeah,
Michigan turns it over as much as anyone. San Diego turns teams over. That's what everyone's going to say. Michigan's got some large people up front.
I watched San Diego. We've watched them a ton. We started talking about them in January. They weren't impressive in their conference
Irvine.
In the conference tournament.
Yeah, but Irvine's a defensive, like,
understood.
Put the grips on you, man, and they didn't even get considered for a bid. But
yeah, I don't know. I talk about, like you just talked about, the size of Michigan. That one's to pull the trigger on the upset. I don't know.
Well, it's a small number, and everyone's going to mention San Diego. Michigan, if they value the basketball, and that's a chore for them. But the size up front, I don't know how San Diego offsets that. You're going to hear a lot of people mention them because the people that are like open up the bracket and go, well, what do we have here?
12-5.
Look at, these are great numbers. Like, welcome to the party, San Diego. This isn't new. How do you pronounce my man's name?
Aniwa Tate Jones.
I'll just say Tate Jones. That's always a tell, by the way. If I won't say the name, I'm always afraid I'm going to screw it up. That's him. Really, really good player.
Yeah, and he was their worst player in the final.
Strangely enough,
it's crazy. Like, I'm watching, I'm like, this team. Like, but to your point, like, it's the St. Mary's Gonzaga. These teams play each other 3 times. You're going to be handcuffing each other. And Coach Turner did a great job. I mean, at the beginning of that game, San Diego was shook, and they battled through. But they got some shot makers. Just like, that's the thing. Like, are you going to get perimeter open threes against Michigan? Yeah, they turn the ball over. But I think the world of Dusty as a coach, I really do. He's got to be losing his mind with how much he turns the ball over. But when you get down to it, man, they do some stuff that's awesome. And the Wolf factor, good luck.
Yeah, he's a true point 4. He can really handle it and do some stuff. And Golden's enormous. I love the Memphis as a 5. Cool. Reward them. Not exactly a reward to play Colorado State and Medved. That team is an absolute wagon. Remember the highlight a few weeks ago? We were screaming, give the ball to Neek.
Yeah.
Colorado State's the 12. They're favored.
4-point favorite.
Favored.
Crazy.
I mean, I've seen some stuff. I've never seen that. But they rolled through the Mountain West.
Yeah.
They got like 3 guys that shoot about 40% from 3.
You can make an argument they're the hottest team in the country because they're on fire.
And it's not just winning, but they're dump trucking people. By the way, Medved, apparently everyone just assumes going to go back to where he went to school and go coach at Minnesota.
Yeah, that was a classy move by Minnesota. 2:19 in the morning, send out a press release on the best day of the year, Thursday, the conference tournaments.
After your team really battled pretty hard, you lost your point guard to the portal. He's at Texas Tech. You lost your big man to the portal. He's at Texas A&M. The team played hard. They got better throughout the year, and you fire them. That's just sickening. 2 in the morning.
2:19.
Be better than that.
I was still up.
Of course, we all. Who are you talking to? I was mountain time, dude.
There you
go. That might have been the end of the things I liked.
The stories they have. Roach could play against Duke. God,
potentially got to be
like this State. Cal Patino thing that possibly might not happen that you just talked about. Is crazy. If Michigan wins, he's got to play against possibly Yale. I don't know about the Yale upset against A&M. I just feel like you're not going to. Yale plays physical style in the Ivy League. They've done decently out of conference. Everyone's going to mention that they beat Auburn last year.
They did.
They did.
but it's not the same
you're
people.
gonna bully A&M. Like that's one thing. You're gonna have to outshoot them and transition and play differently. I just the way A&M rebounds. That's the other problem with me with the bracket. I find it really hard to pick upsets. I really do. I'm one that's always like 3-14. I'll always pick one. Those are rough. 5-12s. I really don't like them. Everyone's going to jump on. Is Purdue or 4 or 5?
There are 4.
Yeah, everyone's going to pick. What's that? High Point.
Correct.
Everyone's going to pick McNeese against Clemson. Clemson lost the guy with a broken hand. That's huge. But I watch McNeese. I don't think they're better than they were last year. That's my opinion. Maybe I caught them on 4 wrong games. But Clemson's got some grown dudes.
And they were an Elite 8 team last year.
Yeah.
A big chunk of that core was Elite 8 a year ago.
All right, what don't you like?
How long you got? Let's start with this. A week ago, I asked the question, somewhat rhetorically, what is the point of these conference tournaments? And now as we sit here, you have Exhibit A of this means nothing. The analogy I made, Cliff's Notes, it's like taking a class. You have a semester. You find out that the end of the year project, you're going to go on a road. You might spend a week working on this thing. It's not part of your grade. It's the full body of work. Is it? Well, the conference tournament apparently is not part of the body of work. If it is, you're evidently, the committee isn't getting the data point. In consecutive days, Michigan beat Purdue by 18. They beat my team at the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Not great. Stop ball. Let's turn them. That happened. Then they beat Wisconsin in a predictable rock fight where both teams were pretty tired. Tanjay, who was awesome against Michigan State, pretty much out of gas. Neither team could make a shot, but Michigan beat Wisconsin. So in consecutive days, you beat Purdue, Maryland, and Wisconsin. And the 5 seed is Michigan. Oh.
They barely got in their chairs, and they were announced as the 5 seed.
5 seed.
Just cutting nets down.
Purdue's a 4. Maryland's a 4. Wisconsin's a 3. Just beat them all. 5 seed. If I'm Dusty May and I'm thinking we just spent all that energy, put all that effort, and it's cool. We won a conference tournament, but it got you nothing. That's just a terrible job. Maryland went there thinking, really would love to play onto the 3 line. Had they stopped that ball and played Wisconsin yesterday, had they beaten Wisconsin, they did in the regular season, but that was at home. I'm not saying they would have, but had they, now I'm doing this, you can't know the unknowable, but would it even have mattered? Would they have been on the 3? My guess is probably not. Purdue finished the year as badly as they could finish it. They lost a ton of games. They're on the 4 line. Okay. I just don't understand how we've gotten to this point where conference tournaments mean nothing. Unless you're a team, obviously, it would have meant a lot to UAB had they won. Apparently would have meant a lot to Mason had they beaten VCU. Yeah. Would have meant a lot to UC Irvine. Obviously, it means something to the teams that if they win, they get in. If you know you're in, I don't know that you can improve your seed line. I also don't know that you can hurt it because there's people that lost early in conference tournaments, and they still have, Purdue lost the first game. No, excuse me. They beat USC.
Oh, whew.
Pretty rough whistle for the boys from Los Angeles.
Brutal.
They won the game. There were some teams, though, that lost their first game, didn't make any difference on their seed line. But when you win 3, and you're behind all 3 teams that you just beat. And by the way, you were ahead of Purdue and Wisconsin in the conference standings for what you did during the season.
Body of work.
But when you say body of work, just admit the conference tournament's not part of the body of work. And then teams could just go, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to punt. Just like, hey, do I have an A? I'm taking this MAPS class, pass, fail. Am I passing? Yeah. Well, then guess what? I'm punting on the final. You know why? Because it makes no difference.
Yeah.
It's just stupidity. I'm so anti-dumb.
It's lazy.
That's really what it is.
It's lazy. That's exactly what it is. Now, I will say this. I'd rather have Michigan's draw than Wisconsin's. And, that's what I was talking about last week. Are you going to move seed lines to withstand not having conference rematches in the second round?
And it's going to be hard because you got 14 teams in the SEC.
That's another, don't let 14 teams in, because we have to talk about North Carolina.
Oh, we're gonna. Not yet.
All right. Michigan, that was the thing. I was like, those guys barely got in their chairs, and they were the first 5 seed, first bracket, the whole thing. I'm like, wait a minute. They just won.
Made no difference.
And who they beat.
You know what the Big Ten should do? They should do what the Big East and
move to Saturday night.
Yes, because the committee said, well, we took one last vote on Saturday night. The Sunday games, it means everything in theory for who wins the conference tournament, but it means nothing for the seed line. It's just dumb. And it is lazy. So if you're the Big Ten, if you're Tony Petitti, move your conference up. Well, we got to do this. Figure it out.
I mean,
you're asking your teams to give give everything they've got and have it mean nothing. That's an affront to the effort that was given.
Yeah.
And the achievement. Okay. I don't get how Iowa State has the same record as BYU, lost to them twice, and has a seed line 3 higher than BYU. Iowa State's is 3. And they've been hurt, and it's them in Texas Tech too. It's like I want everyone to be healthy, just because clearly these teams, you need your best to be at your best. But how's a team that has the same record, finished behind them in the Big 12, lost to them twice, is 3 seed lines higher? And this isn't a problem I have with Texas Tech. I think that's a good basketball team. But for BYU to be 3 seed lines below them doesn't make any sense to me either. And BYU is a challenge to figure out because of when they can play and when they can't, because of the religious, not implications, but just they can't play on
commitments.
That 3 seed line lower seemed odd.
Yeah, you saw it. Those are my 2 favorite games of the year were Iowa State, BYU. At Ames, we followed, it was on the Deuce or whatever, and we were on after that game. And then the Big 12 tournament game was incredible. They set the record for 3-pointers made in a conference tournament game with 10 minutes left in the game. It was nuts.
High-level shot making.
Oh, awesome.
3 seed. And then they played Houston.
Yeah.
And Houston's like, y'all having fun yet?
We're going to sit our main junkyard dog, and we'll just beat you by 20.
Scored 50. Houston's like, if you play them, just understand that this is going to suck, and then it's going to suck worse than you think it's going to suck.
I have some numbers on them. That is my favorite thing for the last couple of years that I'll get to when we start looking, maybe some picks.
Okay, I'll let you do that. I'm trying to immerse myself in understanding of how we got where we are.
All right.
Mentioning Houston and mentioning Roberts being out, watching them win a conference tournament they didn't need to win to be a 1. Culture, dudes, toughness, DNA, everything you think and hear about Kelvin Sampson in Houston, that's all on display there. That's an Arizona team that's a 4. They kind of put them away, but couldn't quite. Arizona kept punching back. We don't need this. We're 1, but we won it anyway. So we're going to win by 8. Ball in the air to make it 5. Significant to some. Didn't go. Also, Duke, going to be a 1. No Cooper flag. Don't need it. Their game against Louisville, that second half, that's a really, really, really impressive team. And the guy that people can talk Knipple, they can talk about Proctor with the hair, right? Big, don't leave me open. Made some shots. Malawak is the guy that when you watch him, he's just he's a game wrecker.
He's incredible.
He's so big. He's got such great feet, such great timing. He takes parts of the court where he is, and you just can't do anything on it. I just kept watching him on defense. I'm like, good Lord, what are you supposed to do with him? And again, they don't have the presumptive number one pick on the floor. Didn't need him to beat a Louisville team. That what Houston and what Duke did. Everyone's talking Florida, and they should. But those two teams who didn't need it and didn't have their full complement looking the way they looked, I'm just like, that's impressive as hell to me.
My favorite guy they got was Gillis, and against
Purdue.
Yeah, and Carolina, they were Duke was tapped out. Like, they didn't have anything left. The lineup was shot, and they're just holding on. And then Shire goes to Gillis late in the first half against Louisville because they couldn't get a rebound. They could not get a rebound, which is with Malawak on the court. So then the second half, he goes to Gillis, sits Evans, and just said, we will figure it out offensively, but we need to rebound and play defense because they were getting killed on the boards. And Louisville had a great plan, but that was the move I thought that Shire made that was really, really telling. Like, all right, we know what we could do. We still have Con. Proctor hadn't made a shot all tournament. He couldn't make one against Georgia Tech.
But as soon as he hit the one, it was like the fuse was lit. And then had a couple heat check shots against Louisville. So who cares? Let it rip.
Because they're that long. The way they max you out, even if you want to try and spread them with their length, and it starts with Malawak. It was super cool to see that group, knowing that Cooper was on the sidelines and not getting, losing Malik again, but those guys knowing, hey, that halftime had to be pretty interesting, seeing Cooper in a wheelchair. You're down almost double digits to Georgia Tech, and what the hell is the next couple of weeks going to look like? I thought it was really cool to see that team respond the way they did.
Impressive as heck. But those two teams, absent a couple of big-time players against.
Awesome atmosphere, too.
Yes,
Louisville travel, Duke. I mean, that felt high level.
Florida, Tennessee was pretty good atmosphere in that building as well. And the Florida didn't have as much of the orange, but they had the better team. We'll get to Florida. I keep punting on Florida.
What else do you hate about the bracket?
Oh, you said we have to talk about it, and we do.
Yeah.
It's the thing everyone's going to talk about. For weeks, my point has been about North Carolina that they just don't deserve to be in the bracket. We kept seeing them first four out. I'm like, based on what? Based on what? There's nothing here. And then they lose a game to Duke where people do this thing where they feel bad that there was a violation, and the young man is I get it. You feel bad that you got a guy in tears, and that sucks that it's called, but it was a violation. Oh, that cost them the tournament. Well, as it turned out, it didn't. But people acted like had the free throw gone in, that it was apparently worth 10.
Yeah.
If the free throw goes in, do you guys understand the game would have been tied? Apparently no one got that.
Yeah, because he missed the first.
Correct. Oh, God, Carolina's not going to go because of this. No. If it counted, it's tied, and Duke has the ball with 5 seconds left. And sadly, I saw what can happen in 5 seconds on an inbound. You can get to the other end and score. People acted like that free throw cost North Carolina. It would have been tied. People can't fucking count. Doesn't matter. They lost. Oh, by the way, a game where Duke didn't even have its best player. And a guy, Malik, who was huge in the game at Chapel Hill.
Yes.
Didn't have either one of them. What do you want to give North Carolina a attaboy participation ribbon? One of these spots in the tournament? Come on. That won't happen. Then it happens. What have I said in all the years?
TV show.
Thank you. Never forget. CBS, TNT, True TV, PBS, TNT, whatever. It's on a lot of networks, which is great because you can just watch all the games. It's a TV show. They paid billions of dollars for a TV show. North Carolina is North Carolina. But I would say Indiana is Indiana.
That's the other point. Go ahead. You go, and then I'm going to go.
Could put Indiana in. That's a brand for a TV show also. The things that people will point out about North Carolina, they'll do the quad one bit. They don't have any. Well, no, they got the one by 2 over UCLA on neutral court. They got it. They got that one. Here's my issue with North Carolina. They had a million opportunities to win games. At some point, just win a game. Couldn't beat Duke, even without their best player. But in this season, this amazing season for the ACC, which has been a great conference for so many years, but this year had a total of 4 tournament teams. 4. You're one of them. That means Carolina had 4 chances against the other 3 teams in the ACC during the regular season to win a game. You got beat by double figures in every single game. By Duke twice, in a non-competitive game in Cameron. Close game for a while in Chapel Hill that ended up being about 13. You got run by Louisville. You got run by Clemson. You didn't demonstrate head-to-head with the 3 other NCAA tournament teams in your conference that you could win a game. And then you almost got the game against Duke in the tournament when they didn't have flag. At the end of the year, you've done nothing to demonstrate your capability of beating other tournament teams. I saw a lot of people today going, well, why isn't anyone mad at Xavier? They only had one quad one. I don't know how that's possible. Maybe that's true, but they beat Marquette at Marquette. They beat UConn. They beat Creighton. So they beat 3 tournament teams from their conference. You beat none, Carolina. None. And so the Bubba thing's going to come up, the AD. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. Well, I have to leave the room. Come on. If me, Steve, Russillo, Chris Long, like Big Cat, are our Super Bowl picture when we get together, hey, we're going to decide something, but we're the committee. But when Wisconsin comes up, Big Cat has to leave the room. We'd be like, hey, man, we probably throw a Big Cat squad in there, right? If it's me, I leave, and you're like, look, if Maryland's got to be in, or Van Pelt's going to burn something down. Stanford Steve leaves. Well, should Stanford be in? I don't know. Probably. They got a bunch of VC dudes. We need some funding. Like, it's just human nature. But I'm taking all that aside, and I'm just saying, look at what they did. West Virginia, they brought up DeVries being hurt. You guys understand that they didn't have him for the whole conference schedule? They won at Fog Allen. They beat Texas Tech. What are we doing? What are we doing?
All right, I got some stuff here. I'm watching the selection show, okay? I'm watching the Big Ten. I think it was 5:33. I look at my watch. I'm like, we got 27 minutes. And I'm watching, and they have Patino on, and they're going, and they come back out. And the desk is Brett Stover, Clark Kellogg, Jay Wright, and Wally Zerbiak. And I'm like, huh. I'm like, when Gumbel did this, he never left the desk, ever. So I'm just saying something seems fishy in my head. Then we get to 6 o'clock, an unbelievable tribute to Greg Gumbel. It was awesome. Made me cry. I thought he was going to start crying when he talked about what this day meant to him in this spot and the tournament and this and that. And then awesome tribute. But then they come out, and Zucker and Seth Davis are on the desk, and they showed Clark Kellogg and Jay Wright leave to go to the other studio with those 2 guys. So something in my mind clicked. I'm like, something happened here with the bracket that those 2 guys had to get on the same page with. They come out. First 11, Carolina. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. My 8-year-old is in the back. She's like, Daddy, bad word. I'm like, I understand. And Alicia, my wife, is like, they got in. I'm like, they sure did. They're on the line. And right from there, I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. We get the bracket, and then they go, and they have Bubba and the vice chair on. And Seth asked this question where you could tell it was kind of thought out, talked out through. And I just feel like there was a powwow had in the 27 minutes before the show that they had a cataclysmic situation that Carolina was getting on.
Why is everything a conspiracy theory?
I don't know if a conspiracy are they more proven wrong or right?
That depends on who you ask.
Because I think I'm right on this one. Anyway. The Carolina resume, the vice chair, because Bubba can't talk about it because he's not in the room. So this is the first time I've ever seen the vice chair sit there. So they knew this was coming. Hence the question from Seth Davis. And the vice chair says they went 8-0 in quad 2 games. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know what's not in the NCAA tournament?
That.
Quad 2 teams.
It's just an indefensible team to be in.
It's and like you said, West Virginia, I forgot who our guy was. He sent us the clip of when we talked about West Virginia fans and how much and he's like, he sent me the clip of us in Oscar's studio over the summer when I was talking about their baseball team, and he just wrote, "The curse continues." That's who I think about, West Virginia.
Well, we said you can knock them down 100 times, they'll get up 101, and that's them. But they had 6 quad 1 wins. 6. Well, the guy's hurt. Yeah?
He didn't play in a Big 12 game.
Not one, which started with them going to Fog Island and beating Kansas.
In December?
Now, I get that if you want to take the wins that they beat Gonzaga. They had some good wins early. I'm going to say it was the Bahamas or one of those tournaments someplace. I don't know. It gets confusing. But come on. North Carolina, however you want to look at it, wins over the bubble? What the fuck are we talking about? Quad 2 wins? Just say it's a TV show.
Seriously.
Indiana won at Michigan State, who's a 2 seed. They beat Purdue by a lot. That's a 4 seed. That's what they showed you they could do against tournament teams. Xavier beat UConn, Marquette, and Creighton. North Carolina beat no one in their own league. Got trucked by the teams in their own league. They almost beat... People somehow made Carolina sympathetic. Oh, God, I feel so bad they didn't win this game. Without Cooper Flagg, because of the free throw, which the game would have been tied had it counted. My God, it's incredible. And Carolina people, why aren't y'all mad at Xavier? For the reasons I just stated. And
you know what the worst thing is?
I don't.
I love North Carolina's draw.
Go get them. They're
going to make a run. I will guarantee it.
And here's the one thing I'd say. In all of this, you didn't. Man, they came close about 5 times against good teams early in the year. You go back and look at the games they played. Had a chance against Florida. Lost by a couple against Kansas, I think. Michigan State. I get confused again.
Yeah.
But when you go back and you look, you're like, oh, man, they were pretty competitive in a bunch of these games. They're not a terrible team. There's a difference between, I'm not saying they're terrible. I'm just saying they had as many chances as they had to demonstrate it, to win the games, and they didn't. And then they get in anyway. Where Indiana won some games. West Virginia won some games. But they're in there. Who do they play?
San Diego State.
And then who do they play the winner of?
Ole Miss.
There you go.
They don't have any bigs.
Neither's North Carolina.
Yeah.
So let's say they beat them. Let's say they beat San Diego State, then they beat Ole Miss, and then they play Iowa State, theoretically.
When looking at...
You could go on a run.
They're going to go on a run. I'm telling you right now. It happens all the time.
Steve's
all the time.
a Duke
Put
person,
him in the Sweet 16.
Steve's a Duke person, so what he's doing right now is that thing he does.
Of the 8 teams, of the last 4 in and the first 4 out, when you look at those teams, Carolina was first in the net, first in the WOB. That's a new one. WOB and Torvik were big this week there for the committee. Ken Pom first, non-conference strength of schedule first. That's the ultimate one. Quad 1 wins and losses.
Hold on a second.
They were 8th out of those 8 teams. So obviously Quad 1 wins is not a factor anymore. So I don't want to hear about it. They were 8th in Quad 1 wins-loss records of those 8 teams.
Hold on a second about strength of schedule. How do you get credit for playing hard games if you don't win any? That's like me taking, Mom, I got a 0.0, but I took hard classes. You failed them all? I did. I sure did. But I want to tell you, I tested myself. I could have taken that astronomy lab that everybody knows you get an A in, but I didn't do that. I took hard classes. Failed them all, but really challenged myself. What are we doing? What are we doing? It's a TV show. But Indiana's...
They're going to Sweet 16.
They might.
Sweet.
I just... I don't get angst-ridden about the back end of the tournament, mostly simply because you aren't talking about teams that are likely to be capable of going on a run. This particular one, though, is just so specific as it relates to, here's the guy that's the athletic director at the school that then comes on the air.
Perfect storm.
And everyone talked for weeks about, why are they even listed among the first so-and-so out? Because of all the things we just talked about. Not winning any games. Didn't make any difference.
I thought I read, too, somebody that
they
you go
still
on
made
that
it.
bracket matrix.
Yep.
There's like 111 brackets.
111. That's exactly. I'm glad you pointed that out. Go ahead. All 111 had who in? West Virginia.
Yeah.
They went over. There's something to be said for, and I follow a lot of them, and it's interesting because you follow them, and it's, you know what it's exactly like? I'm good at analogies. I think.
I think you're improving immensely.
Thanks. Apparently, I did shitty analogies, but now I do good ones.
No, you're just trying more, and they make more sense, and I need stuff to make sense.
Like the class where you do.
Awesome.
Isn't that a good analogy?
Yeah.
Because it's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
I find that the bracketologists are much like doing mock drafts for fantasy, because in your mock drafts and fantasy, like, okay, I picked 7th. Is Jefferson still going to be there? I think he is. PPR league, high stakes. We'll take number 18. We'll be good. Then all of a sudden he's off the board, and now you're freaking out because, like, I've been preparing to take this guy. Now I don't know what to do. Well, I'll be honest. 4-line, maybe 3-line. I don't know how they're going to get there. Maryland, we see all things through, all politics are local. We know that. So I was convinced, based on all these bracketologists, like, I spent a lot of time looking at Yale. Looked like they could be on opposite. Maybe McNeese, maybe a Lipscomb. They got some shooters. Not once did I ever consider a path that included Grand Canyon University, Memphis, and/or Colorado State. Not one time. And then the bracket comes out, and I'm just like, well, I don't know what to do. I just know that the Lopes, I know those, they got some fans.
Oh, we'll get to that in a little bit.
They are, when I say mutants, that is a term of endearment, and you got them.
They're going to have fucking antlers on, the whole thing.
My fear is they're going to be about 10,000 of those people in the building in Seattle. True road game for the Dirty Trips.
Couldn't go farther.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But hey, shout out to my guy Fred Couples, who I get a text once every 3 or 4 years. Mr. Seattle himself. Hey, good road for the Terps. I forget what he said, but anyway, shout out to Fred Couples.
Big fan.
He loves college hoop.
Yeah,
loves college hoop, and he's keeping an eye on the Dirty Trips, which I appreciate.
Him and Nance will be at the Houston games. That's always,
I imagine.
Right? Yeah, and this goes to our point, because now he just goes away. But the time Lenardi puts in, I just want to give him a shout, because the guy is awesome. He went 66 for 68, and so did every other bracketologist. I was watching Goodman on Field of 68 doing the bracket reveal. He had the two bracket guys, I forget their names, and they like lean back in their chair, and they're like, you gotta be kidding me, when Carolina gets in. So it's the ultimate. Everybody said it. Brand versus this and brand versus that. And to your point, what I was saying all night, I was like, Indiana, I guess, is not as big a brand, or blue blood, whatever. That's a whole nother conversation. But Carolina obviously is. And I don't care what anyone says. That's why they got in. And it's,
of course.
And I just always think of other guys. And it's tough.
There's no justification.
Like West Virginia must like that. I don't know. Like you said, everything had you in. Like
111 bracketologists.
Can't imagine. And I don't ever want to see it on that day, because like we saw with Norvell and Florida State when they didn't get in the college football playoff. But I always yell at our producers, like when we're showing games and they show the road team of like the spot where the fans are watching it. But then when that team loses, we never show what a catastrophe that bar would be with people chucking shit and all that. Like I want to see that. But I don't want to see the team that doesn't get in. So I haven't seen the footage of West Virginia. I can't imagine what that looks like.
I don't know how they don't make it.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for the room having the input of these folks, because these bracketologists are using the metrics as stated for inclusion, and they use those to inform their opinion. And I didn't know that these new Wob and Quad 2 were new. Those are new ones, I guess.
Wob and Torvik, the vice chair mentioned those.
Okay.
And Bubba did. And I was like, okay. And then he dropped the Quad 2 wins. I'm like, oh, my God.
So
what about the Quad 3 loss at home to Stanford?
What about the Quad 1 win? The number of opportunities.
It's amazing.
And you got 1 2-point win over UCLA. Who knows?
Are you going to fill out a bracket?
Yeah, I'll do it.
No, you won't.
I probably will. I knew Maryland and Florida were going to. I told you guys this. I've known for weeks. Just in my head. Was with the fam, all Gators up in Breck. Like, they're watching the Gators roll. Go ahead.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Maryland tipped at 3:30.
Correct. That's 1:30.
Florida tipped off at, what was the TV dynamic?
I just went to my own space.
You did?
Yeah.
None of the boys came? They wanted to watch Florida?
There's way more Gators in the house. All Gators.
All Gators than you.
And so we went up and just hunkered down.
And then
I was
break anything or no?
I was remarkably composed.
Really?
I don't know how I was, but I was.
Good.
Michigan had them down 15, and Maryland comes back and has the lead.
Like nothing.
Dairy Queen was insane. And it looked like they were going to get it, and then they didn't. That was a bummer. But I had, for weeks, I've just thought, you know what? Florida's going to be a 1, Maryland's going to be a 4. They're going to end up in the same bracket. Been saying it. I think I mentioned it. I asked my youngest, like, what are you going to do? He's like, he smiled, and he's like, who are you going to root for? He said, I don't know. It hasn't happened yet. And I said, that's pretty clever. Kick the can down the road.
Good for him.
By the way, his room is orange and blue. Gator flag. It's side with mom, but
you got Sam though.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think my kids really like teams that they front run, as most kids do. It's all right. I'll teach them the ways of being a turtle. I mean, I think that the last 4 games Maryland's lost have been excruciating. Basically, look at how they lost to the Michigan State and Michigan. Come on. Kids, just, hey, you want to sign up for this? It'll be a lifetime of getting kicked in the nuts. You're built for it, though, because it's in your DNA. And so yesterday, as I tell Charlie, I'm like, hey, buddy, remember that 1-4? I said, both teams have to win 2 games, so that's a lot in the tournament. I said, but Maryland and Florida, they could play. What do you want? What are you going to do? He's like, I know what I want to do. I said, what? He said, I want to go in a time machine and punch Joe Lunardi in the face. And I said, why do you want to punch Joe Lunardi in the face? And he goes, well, he's the one that does the brackets.
Yeah.
So he thinks that
he makes the bracket.
He thinks Lunardi made the bracket. Joe.
A lot of people do. Gets crushed.
Joe, my son does not want to assault you. He's just traumatized by the thought that potentially there could be I have to side with mom or dad. And he blames you. I explained that it was not you. But everybody thinks it's our fault, right? It's our fault.
SEC, yeah, 14 teams in.
ESPN agenda.
Sankey and Van Pelt.
Hunkered down.
Yeah.
Up in Breck, downstairs at Eric's in the corner.
What's great is, though, I could already feel it because they got the most teams in. They're just waiting for the teams to get knocked off. So they could say they have the most losses in an NCAA tournament too. Like that army's ready to go.
That's fine.
Like, cool.
Okay.
Like, have fun with that. But I know they beat Quad 1s, but they had more opportunities.
Well, sure.
What did Texas end up? 19 and 15?
They lost a lot of games.
Like, that's and
that is the thing to point out, that when you get Quad 1 wins, how many opportunities did you have to get them? Which is the point that I have such a difficult time as it relates to North Carolina. When you're in the teens, and you got 1, what are we doing? So at least Texas, I understand their record's lousy, but they won some games. And they showed you they could beat teams that were, this is what we're talking about. When you're trying to figure out who should be in, we'll have you demonstrated you're capable of beating the teams that are also in the bracket.
And that's why the coaches got to have a deal with their ADs, because Texas didn't play anyone in the non-conference. No one. And again, to the little guys, like if it's like Texas is a monster brand, we haven't even brought them up. But like it's just please no expansion talk. Like if this is what we're going to deal with. Yeah. But again, to that point, it even gives the little guys a tougher shot. So that's what I mean. I watch Boise State a ton. As soon as I saw Carolina, I'm like, they're out. Mountain West is done. All the small guys. I was even worried for Xavier. So it's brutal. But what? Give me a 3 seed or lower you like to go to the Final Four.
3 or lower?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any idea. You go because you've clearly done it.
I haven't.
Oh.
I just watched everything, and everyone had the 1s playing the 2s in the Elite 8, and I'm like, that's not going to happen.
No, people are rather chalky.
It's incredible.
We both like BYU. I don't like them against VCU.
See, I don't.
They scare me.
BYU Wisconsin would be an incredible basketball game. I like Tennessee's draw. Okay. Obviously, Houston looking at the end of the road. Michigan State. I like. That's the other thing about the bracket. As it's coming out, they do the West last. So I'm doing it in my head. I'm like
loaded.
I'm like, okay, that's final because no one has talked about Texas Tech, and if they're healthy, they're as good as anybody. Obviously,
that's such a gigantic caveat though because they just haven't been.
Yeah,
like every game, it's like who's in a boot, who can play.
Yeah,
and that's a gigantic issue for any team in any sport.
And what St. John's has done, I mean, they won the weekend. I mean, when you look at what Pitino's done this weekend, did you see his comments last night at his press conference?
Which ones? Because we all saw the Jameson's line about he was going to get drunk on Jameson's.
No. This was last night after the bracket was revealed.
About
going up to Providence.
Mm-mm.
So he's doing it, and he's like, I'm fired up. He's like, in the back of my head, I saw Providence as a site. I wanted to be in Providence. He's like, let's make sure all our fans, we get up there, and as you're driving through Connecticut, wave to all the fans in stores. And I'm laughing because he is on one. He's taking shots all over the place, and it's awesome to see because that's what New York City wants. It's been forever. You read the stories. Our guy Quinn wrote an awesome article about being on the court after they won it. But to your geography, when you go from New York City to Providence, you don't even come close to going near stores because you know where you're going?
Groton.
Out by Groton. You're going right through Groton, down 95, up 95.
That's rare because it's never by Groton.
Well, Groton is Rhode Island.
Understood.
Basically. All right,
Understood.
So you got that. But no, Pitino's on. Did you read the Quinn article?
No, I know, but
it's awesome.
But he's one of my favorite writers.
He's incredible.
It's one of those things I favorited just because it's.
And then you go back when you want something to read.
Because
did that all weekend.
Well, and St. John's is a great story, and Pitino's an awesome sort of reminder. Look, when Turgeon said no mas here at Maryland, and the powers that be are like, well, what do we think of this now? It's like, you guys should certainly look at Pitino. You won't, because I know what you're afraid of. You're afraid of, like, there'll be bad article in the Post about what happened at Louisville. And then you just say, okay, you take a deep breath to Mississippi. The news cycle moves on, and then he'll come and be great and win. And by the way, we got a Pitino disciple. Hope everything gets sorted out on that front.
I know.
Neither here, like I say nothing. But the point I was making as it related to hiring a guy that was at Iona is that he is, as you described, best coach in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And he's on one because it's like there's a reservoir of energy there that I think is probably fueled by a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And he went to Iona, and Iona served him, and he needed that place more than Iona needed him because he needed a place to go to be the place in between what happened and the next place. You know what doesn't get brought up now that he's in New York and St. John's has been restored in basically 2 years? Louisville. They may talk about it? No. Because no one's got the bandwidth to bring up stuff from the past. They're just sort of paying attention to what's happening right now. And St. John's is at 2. They won the regular season. They won the conference tournament. And you're right. I think you're looking at a guy who's won everywhere he's been, and now he's just on a scorched earth tour. And I don't start saying I don't blame him. It's not I blame him. I could relate to that because I think it's just kind of the place you might be.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, pretty good at this. And it helps to have the Rapoli guy that's the billionaire. Nice to have a billionaire who's, if push comes to shove, you could lean on that guy. That's what every school is going to need.
He was on the stage with him for the trophy ceremony. It's
Dude,
awesome.
You can come stay at my place, man. Whatever you need. Whatever you need.
Body armor.
Hey, listen, it helps to have that. Helps to have people that have deep pockets that have the same level of passion that you've got for restoring the luster. I called it the crown jewel of New York City basketball.
Mm-hmm.
It's what it is. Obviously, the Knicks are a different thing, but when I think of New York City basketball, I always thought St. John's.
Yeah.
I mean, with no disrespect to the Knicks, because in my life, St. John's, particularly in the 80s, like St. John's was the brand of New York City.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you had Ewing and the Knicks, and that like there's been some times at the Garden, but St. John's,
Walter Berry,
dude,
come on. Now I know a lot of people down here don't like hearing that name, but when they showed him Friday night in the Garden, I'm like, damn, man.
You got to say it right, though. That's Walter Berry.
40 years. Oh, my other favorite thing was the way Patina, did you see the speech to the team when he kept saying Marquette? The way he says Marquette was phenomenal. And he said it 4 times.
Marquette, Walter Berry.
Walter Berry. And then Jason Williams. And, like, that's the end tier. But, like, Mark Jackson, Chris Mullen, Wennington. I mean, that team. I mean,
Willie Glass in the building.
Oh.
Jumping over dudes.
Come on.
That's
Brust.
I mean, now we're in a St. John's wormhole. Get Russillo on line 1.
Here's the deal. Is because in Connecticut, and if you're old enough to remember this, they weren't good. So everyone either rooted for Syracuse, Georgetown, or St. John's. That was it.
Come on. Chuck Alexinas, Corky Thompson.
Horny.
Huh?
Horny Thompson.
I put the wrong word in. Sorry.
They were a doormat. They played at a field house. There was dirt on the floor. Serious.
Marquette.
That's a team I don't know what to do with in this bracket.
St. John's?
No, Marquette.
Oh, me either. I was in love with them because of Cam Jones. I'm like, man, you guys lost way more games than I thought you were going to lose.
Yeah. But St. John's, it feels like I was listening to Coach Crean last night, and he's like, he's like, I looked at them. I looked at Texas Tech, and then they're both with Florida. And I'm like, I'm looking at the Terps.
I just recused myself from that conversation.
How? Like, it's pretty nuts that I think UConn's going to take care of Oklahoma.
Okay.
And the idea of Hurley having to two-peat and the last team before Hurley to have the repeat was Florida. Like, that's a little story.
Them Gator boys, right? Yeah.
Like, if I'm Florida, I'm like, damn, I got to play this team at 8-9.
That's the point I made about for all the things that I think are questionable. That as a potential storyline in your TV show, the last two to repeat, and just imagining Hurley on a million, just jaw out.
I watched the
other against the world,
other Hurley Shap piece he did last night. It was on late. You get a lot more. If you don't like him, watch it. There's the understanding of his levels of anxiety and the family and everything.
He talks about
it's really, really open.
His honesty
and his
about
dad is on it too. That's what makes it come full circle. Jeremy did an unbelievable job with it.
The honesty about imposter syndrome that he struggled with, like being the son of and then the brother of the guy that was the face of Duke when Duke became Duke.
But like in Jersey City, St. Anthony's, Bobby doing it big, getting the undefeated season, and then him being, he broke his finger. I think he said his sophomore year he couldn't even play, and then it's all on him, and he does it. They win. But then he talks about being at Wagner and literally minutes before the game being underneath turning all the lights off in his office and going underneath his desk and fighting panic attacks to go out and be able to be the coach he wants to be for his players, because he talks about how that's what it is. That's what his dad did instill in him, of the good stuff that he went by. And it's really open, and it's like you haven't seen. It's an unbelievable story. Is anybody beating Florida?
So I'm sitting here thinking, I mean, for all this talk about Hurley and understanding that he's got a chip and his guys have it, I mean, on his shoulder, and then he's got chips as in championships, they're not beating Florida. I don't think. So then that means that
they do, and then the 4 comes up, knocks off UConn.
Look,
I mean, see you in San Antonio. That bracket's nuts.
The West? West is pretty deep.
What's going to be in San Francisco?
West is pretty deep. Yeah, the West Finals in San Francisco. West Final in San Francisco.
I thought Maryland was going to end up with 3 because I had them winning the Big Ten tournament.
Didn't happen.
And I thought they were going to be with St. John's. I just thought that was going to happen.
I think Maryland folks would have been thrilled to go Providence to whatever.
Newark.
Yeah, just a little easier on the how are we going to get there kind of deal. But
train.
Well, ain't no train to Seattle.
I'm watching 1923, that show. That train from old New York to Bozeman's rough. Train to Maryland to Seattle.
Yeah.
See you in May.
Yeah, that's...
You imagine?
No,
you're not a train guy.
To Seattle?
No. When's the last time you went on a train? Not the Santa train.
Italy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, last year, Italy. Florence to Venice.
They're on time. Don't be late.
We talked about that. If everything now, granted, they strike quite a bit, from my understanding. But when they're not on strike, if the train leaves at noon, you better be on that sumbitch at 11:55 because it's gone out the station at noon. Efficient. I enjoyed it. Looking at the countryside, good time. Whoa, Red, what do we got? I don't know who's beating Florida. The one thing that just immersing myself in just reading, it's just everyone's chalky because the thing we know for certain is that the uncertainty of what it will be come Thursday night, come Friday night, the likelihood of somebody who all year we thought was really good is done is incredibly high because it's just on a yearly basis, we just see it happen.
Yeah. And
but I can't sit here now and tell you, I don't really like this. I'm not any good at guessing.
What do you think about Auburn still getting the number 1 overall, losing 3 or 4? And I got attacked. I just asked a question. I was like, has this ever happened? And boy, were people coming for your. I was like, I'm just asking a question. Has the number 1 overall seed ever lost 3 of their last 4 games?
Uh-huh.
I didn't say they weren't deserving. I thought they did deserve it.
Well, their body of work is such that they should absolutely be seen as what they have been throughout.
Yeah, because they had the most quad 1 wins.
But
that seemed to matter when you're stacking the 1 seeds.
Yeah, I think Florida clearly has finished with a flourish, and Duke certainly has been an absolute juggernaut as well. Whereas Auburn, great body of work, and Pearl's not wrong for me. Like, oh yeah, I'm whatever it was, I'm shook or whatever about who they lost to, because who they lost to were all deep end of the pool teams.
Yeah,
it's not like you lost to. All due respect, South Carolina struggled this year. You didn't lose to the back end of your league. But certainly Duke and Florida and Houston finished. They could have been the overall number 1. If you have a 1 next to your name, it doesn't matter if you're the overall number 1. It doesn't matter, in my opinion. If you're a 1, you're a 1. There are 4 of them. So I think that the second game for these ones, are there games that they could be tested in? And it seems like the answer is yeah. That's what you want.
Would you rather be a referee in the Houston-Tennessee game if it happens, or eat a corned beef Reuben?
Is there sauerkraut on it?
Yep.
Ooh, God, that's probably the disqualifier right there. It would be such an absolute. I mean, we don't like to use the war illusion, but an absolute. Red, what do you got, bud? Big fat Red with the ear infections over there woofing at me. Yeah, that would be only for grown men. Adult Swim.
Mm-hmm.
Blow the whistle. Adult Swim.
Yeah,
and guess what? Both fives for each team would come out on the floor because that's all either side has. I don't know who's Kentucky's kind of banged up, man.
I know.
That's a bummer. Illinois, I don't know. The last time we saw them, Maryland was ahead by 40.
Yeah.
I don't think the Midwest is close to as good as the West.
No, nothing is.
I don't think any bracket is potentially as loaded with teams that.
The West has 4 teams that I believe that were on the list.
On the list. Did anybody drop off your list? Anybody add to the list?
I don't know what to do with Wisconsin. Because, God, they were brutal yesterday.
Couldn't make a shot.
And the guys that I would rather have, like Tanji just obviously was off, and he just kept trying, and I'm like, that's not the way to go about things.
Oh, I disagree.
And their draw is brutal. You got to go to Denver. Montana's not horrible, dude. That team could score.
They beat Greeley, didn't they?
Oh, yes, they did.
Northern Colorado, those that know.
You want a Chuck E. Cheese review?
I did see a picture of you walking into Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah, let's hear it.
5-year-old Chuck E. Cheese birthday party for a friend of my 5-year-old.
Okay. And how many were there?
At our time slot. Now, there's plenty of positives here about the old Chuckster.
Okay.
There was 4 other parties.
Wow.
So I almost sent you a picture, but I didn't. First thing you walk in, it way brighter than the old Chuck E. Cheese. Like bright, clean shelves, toy sections, good, awesome video games. No more ball pit. Remember the old ball pit where like kids would literally get lost? They would go so far down.
I assume that was like post-COVID. Like you just
I would
can't.
think so.
You just like maybe it's a disease.
But that's a good run for
Petri
ball
dish.
pits because the ball pits were always great.
I would say.
Plenty of memories about the old ball pits.
Got ball pit memories?
Fun stuff.
Okay.
No, that's what you remembered at Chuck E. Cheese, you know?
Sure.
It was just a
mayhem.
Yeah. Chucking balls, who got hit in the head, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Hey, we lost Johnny. He's down. Where is he? I see his sneaker. That's not him. He's over here.
Where's Johnny?
Now we got trampolines, mini trampolines. And boy, let me tell you, my kids love trampolines. Love them. They're good, safe, net, 6 little mini trampolines, and we're going. She doesn't even want to play the games. We got good games. We got Pop-A-Shot. There's like 3 different levels of Pop-A-Shot, like adult, medium, and then kids. And she could shoot, so she played that middle one a little bit. But Dad, I want to go back to the trampoline. And I was told 11 to 12:30 out of there. 11:45, I start on the pizza. Remember Chuck E. Cheese pizza?
Sure.
Still legit. Very good. Now it's getting a little smaller. I don't know what we're paying for, but open fountain soda. We're good there. 12 o'clock. Let's get the cake out. Cake comes. Chuckster comes out. Do a little new dance, little version of electric slide, I would guess so. Kids are learning to dance while we're cutting the cake. Boom. Have the cake. A happy birthday. A little remix of happy birthday. I haven't heard that one. Workers were tremendous. 12:30. Out the gate. 1 o'clock. We got SEC and A-10 games on the TV.
That's how you thread the needle, folks. Dad of the year.
Now, the old, I don't even know what you call them, giant puppets where they had them singing, Chuck E. Cheese and all the friends, those are gone. But bright lights, clean, pristine. Workers were great. You want an efficient birthday party for, I would say, maybe 6 and younger? Chuck E. Cheese could still do it for you. Shout out to the Chuck E. Cheese people.
All right.
Excellent time.
So what we got right here in this particular pod, unsolicited endorsements from Steve of Chuck E. Cheese for a birthday party. Bright, clean, fun.
6 and under.
6 and under.
Because if you get anybody bigger in those trampolines, you're going to have, massive collisions.
That's what I always wonder. Like, kids need to wear crash helmets because it feels like you're inches away from severe injury.
You got to wear a helmet when you ski?
Yeah, I'll tell you about that in a minute.
All right.
But so we got a Chuck E. Cheese endorsement and a Downstairs at Eric's endorsement in Breckenridge. Free of charge. Just out of the goodness of our hearts. We enjoy good things.
And literally, forgot what I was just going to say.
Literally.
Oh, look who's done another interview.
Oh, there he is. Patino on with McAfee. Marquette. Walter Berry. Helmets are something that I mocked. Like, what are we doing? Why are we wearing helmets?
Do you wear a helmet riding a scooter?
I did not.
Will you?
Probably not.
Okay.
But I told you that, the Kin Show chair, I believe it was called. That's where you go up above the tree line. I might be chair 9 at Breckenridge. I don't know. Your boy caught an edge.
Oh, yeah?
I did. Only took one spill this week, but it was a big one. Caught an edge. It's steep. I thought I was going to pull out of it and save it. Caught another one. Then we had pizza flying skis went into each other, and I hit the deck hard and smashed my head. Like, I don't know, concussed? No, but I'd have been in the blue tent.
Really?
Yeah, it was not good.
Ass over tea kettle.
No, fell hard, like arm back beneath and head hit the deck, whipped my neck around. Neck still hurts. Would have definitely been in the blue tent. Could have passed.
Did you get a stinger?
Yeah. It hurt.
They suck, dude. I get them now if I hit my head on a doorway, and I still like the old days. Oh God, stingers. You think you're. I can always tell watching games when a guy or a girl gets one for the first time. There's nothing like that face because you know the feeling, kind of like Cooper Flagg when they touched his ankle and you saw him on the sideline.
Yeah.
It's the burning sensation. You think you're being lit on fire.
The whole thing was not. I laid there for a minute, and I'm by myself, and I'm like, oh boy. And all I could think is, I'm the guy that mocks wearing a helmet. Thank God I had one, because like if this melon hit that as hard as I hit, I can't imagine. So don't be a bozo. Wear the helmet. It's you might catch an edge, and the next thing you know, you're down and out. Little guy, very aggressive, and I'm behind him, and he wipes out hard, and I'm like, oh boy, and I pull up, and I'm like, buddy, all right? He's like, he goes, yard sale. His stuff was everywhere. And that's his reaction to a wipeout with skis off, poles everywhere. He's laughing and says yard sale. I'm like, well, that's better than me. It was up there. I think I might have knocked myself out briefly. Stinger, don't know where I am. Still a little residual pain in the neck. But yeah, you gotta wear it. And look, I got like a Merton Hank situation in a Gazoo head. I mean, it's not a good look, but
dude,
you can't be scrambling these eggs.
I mean, I can't tell you how scared I am now. And we were both young. We would do riding bikes, jumping off cliffs in the water and stupid shit. Like, I'm so afraid to get hurt right now as I get older. Like, I just look at how long it would take, and I'm soft now. But like you can't like these people playing pickleballs. I was talking to a doctor over the weekend. He can't keep up with the Achilles injuries.
I bet.
And I'm like, he's like nonstop. He's like, if I have 40 people come in, he's like 15 Achilles.
Pickleball.
Like, pickleball. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm not doing it.
Well, that's why I got to be honest here, Steve. My assessment post-trip, love Breck, the whole scene. But my days of being a confident skiing sort of, just being a confident skier, are in the rear view. I am now very, very mid, and that's sad. because I used to love this, and you're not a skier, but I used to love the underneath the lifts. The folks at ski know, like the big bumps, the moguls underneath the lifts. There's like a lot of times you get a place where you could
moguls, dude.
But it used to be a blast. I'm old and washed. Knees. I hit the deck and knocked myself out. I can't get concussed. I fell off a fucking scooter. My toes mangled for life. I spent the entire time skiing thinking, gosh, this is so beautiful. And that was side by side with, please don't fall and get hurt, because it'll take me forever to get better. And I may never get better.
Correct.
My toes at this point, like when we got to the end and my doc, shout out to Gabe, he's like, yeah, this is kind of what it's going to be. Like I have a big Fred Flintstone toe. It was broken 5 places. He goes, yeah, well, the bone, when it heals, like there's more bone.
Callus.
So, yeah, I got a callus. I talked about this already on here. I'm sorry I'm being redundant. But now, like, I got to live with this hideous toe. And that's just a toe. Like, you rip a knee up, you fall. I'm too old for this.
No way.
I got my guy laughing about yard sale. I can't have a yard sale at this point, man. Yard sales are done. So you're defensive and, hey, you want to go do this Black Diamond? Give me the wide open blues, baby. I am cruising down the mountain slowly. And then every now and then you're like, all right, you feel like you kind of, all right, let's give it a little go here. And then no, I'm Mr. Mid.
But I got to feel the good, like you talked about Charlie with the yard sale. Your guy, Sam, he's a scare. He had to be smile for a week.
That's what it's about. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
The kiddos can all ski, and they're confident, good, having a blast, and I'm all about it. I just probably we're deep on the back nine of Dad.
Yeah,
actually getting out there.
That'll
and doing
be at the bottom.
Meet me down there for the après ski.
There you go.
I bet. I don't know what else I got, dude.
I just want to say I don't care about anyone's small talk in the next couple of weeks unless you want to talk about the tournament. All I care about is the tournament. And with that, we talked about the men's tournament selection committee. Women, we got to be better. The women's committee, we have to be better.
What were the big misses, Steve?
They put USC in. Now, listen, chalk happens a lot more in the women's game than the men's.
Right.
And we're getting to that point. I think there's 8 teams that can win a national title in women's, which is the first time I've ever said that. But if chalk runs, USC and UCLA are on the same side of the bracket.
Uh-huh.
Texas and South Carolina are on the same side of the bracket.
Right.
They meet. That's the 4th time they've played this year.
They should be on the opposite sides of the bracket so that they meet for the 4th time. It's for a title.
Yeah. And then USC's mad because they got the lowest one. They beat UCLA twice, but then lost them in the conference title game. And their reasoning for South Carolina not being the number 1 overall seed is just because UCLA beat South Carolina way back when, and then South Carolina got beat by 28 by UConn.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I was at the SEC tournament, and I watched every game. And that team's pretty damn good, and they're better than UCLA. But you guys didn't watch a conference tournament, evidently, because those are your criteria. I would love to find a site that has an exact matchup. Give me UConn against South Carolina in the women's final. Probably not the best odds, but you could get good odds in that if you can find it. Anybody has a site, bet it.
I just got a bootleg site. I don't know about that. I don't know what kind of odds you can get there. I don't think they have any futures. I was gonna get into the Rory thing, like the phone, and then he ends up winning the players in a playoff on a Monday. But like that whole scene was nuts.
Crazy wins. Did you see what's the old Persimmon?
There you go.
Did you see the video they did? Our guy Steele, that's at TGL,
hitting the guys.
Scotty Straka. He made him go to a hole at TPC, and
it was like Calvin Pete's old Persimmon driver.
Yes, because Calvin Pete won that
players.
tournament.
Correct.
Yes,
yeah.
And they're out there, and they're like the head of it's got screws on it.
Correct.
And then they use the old balls.
Oh, the Bellata?
Yes, exactly. And all the guys are saying, I've swung a persimmon, but I never had to hit a Bellata off a persimmon.
What happened?
It was better than I thought. I think he wanted it to be worse, but he was just asking, get in the fairway. And Scotty, Tom Kim, it's awesome. It's an awesome video. PGA Tour sent it out. But just to see those guys, it looks like they're just swinging a club with nothing on the end because it's so small compared to what they use today. But all I could think of,
Andy North.
Yep.
Give him the quote.
These guys don't have a clue.
That's Andy's catch-all. These guys don't have a clue.
But I can't wait to go down. We're going down TGL for the finals next week.
Yeah.
Cannot wait, but I'm dying to talk to those guys about that because it's to see it in their hands and then like Oberg striping it, Scotty striping it, and what do you call it? Buttercut. You got to hit a little buttercut.
There you go.
And he's like, did you mean to hit a buttercut? Scotty's like, you got to do something. You can't just hit it straight with this. It's awesome. Video's incredible.
It gives you great context into how good the guys were that played back in the day, like with the artistry to use that. As for the week for Rory, I do think there was so much conversation, and we're obviously late to it, about the whole deal with the phone. And it turns out the guy that's heckling him is this really accomplished, excellent player from Texas. What it felt like to me was that the real life moment where people say in real life the thing that they tweet. It was like saying a tweet where you're being an ass. There's no reason to be an ass. And then it's like, oh, wait, I did this for real. And particularly for someone that's a really accomplished amateur that wants to someday be that guy, to heckle him with like his worst moment from Augusta, just feels like a tweet. And saying out loud to the person the tweet, and the guy like walked it back and apologized. Like there's no need to pile on. There's really no need to pile on.
I did it,
but it's a great instructive moment. Don't say the tweet out loud. Just don't be an ass.
Yeah.
Just don't be an ass. That's what I'd say to the young man. To Rory, I think taking a dude's phone's out of bounds.
Yeah,
you don't do that. Like it's not yours to do. That's the kind of thing where I think. The minute that somebody pokes the bear and now the bear is looking at him, that person's already shit their pants already. You don't need to then take their property. Then you can just be like, hey, man, there's no, there'll be none of that.
Bad luck.
No one is bathed in glory in that particular moment, but then in the end, for Rory to end up winning. I was actually watching that Saturday night. He ends up making a birdie on the last to get to within 4, and it's the kind of thing where you're like, okay, that's the Rory, the little thing, and I don't even know if it says it anymore on the old side view mirror. Objects in the rear view are closer than they appear. Yeah, that's Rory getting that bounce coming. Rory starts bouncing. That's when it's like, oh, God, he's got it cooking. And then he ends up winning in a Monday morning playoff. So an eventful week for him. I was rooting for Spawn just in the sense that it's a life changer for Spawn. You win that. He's won on tour, but you win the Players. That's a pot full of money, and it's sort of, you know why people call it the fifth major, and I always am like, whoa. There's 4.
Easy.
There's 4. Here's what I will say about the reason that is on the level of tournaments like that is because if you watch golf, you know what every hole on that course is. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what every hole is. You can go through it. 2 is a par 5. You should make a birdie on. 3 is short par 3. 4 is a little quirky. 5 is a hard driving hole. 6, they put a tree in. They didn't need to do that. I don't know why. 7, the water comes in. I could keep going, but I don't want to bore you. But you know I'm right if you follow golf at all. You know what every hole is. And you can say that about, in my opinion, no other golf tournament that's not a major.
Travelers is the 5th major. We all know that. Okay?
Apologies to the fine folks up in Hartford.
Back to your point. I'm still amazed at how many balls go in the water on 18.
18 or 17?
18.
Well, 18 is a much harder hole than 17. There's water down the whole left.
I mean,
and you're trying to turn it, and if you turn it just ever so slightly, and then it bounces, and then it's in.
No buttercuts on that.
Buttercut, and then you end up in the woods on the right. Anyway. I enjoy the week.
But yeah, March Madness.
Yep.
After March Madness,
Augusta National.
Give me the golf. Give me all of the golf.
Right.
But yeah, I got no time for it if you're not talking March Madness. Men's or women's, awesome tournament. Women's tournament's going to be incredible.
I got to fill out a bracket.
Yeah, you do. What do you got? Friday, 4:25 you're playing?
Yep. By the way, we're not on. Just folks, like,
during the tournament, yeah. Watch the games.
By design, because the games start later and later. You're not watching us. And when we were on, the limitations of video were such that we couldn't do the job the way we would want to do it. If you're limited by how much, and this is not a knock on CBS, if we owned the rights to the event and somebody else was going to do a show, we'd limit their.
We give them
maybe more than 2 minutes
or 90 for an hour.
You just can't possibly do the job.
Can't. That's why you're going to see so much press conference sound. Just so you know, when you're watching
sports. Hey, why
Center.
aren't you showing the video?
We can't.
That. So, if you can't do the job correctly, in our estimation, then don't do it. So we got days. We figure out the days we're going to be on. We're not going to be on during the tournament, which means I'm going to be sitting in front of the old boob tube, hunkered down.
And I got a pleasant surprise for you.
You do?
I do. We are doing shows Monday and Tuesday night.
This week?
Yep.
Yep.
Tuesday night, the return
of
real or fake true TV shows. The Brown brothers have sent the text, and boy, have they come in hot. There's a... you know what we'll do? We'll do it next week. What didn't make the cut because they're maybe inappropriate? Because that's the best part.
On the pod?
On the pod.
Well, my all-time favorite that didn't make the show. For those that don't know, the first year that like True TV was part of it, there was like these shows that you go, what are these shows?
Yeah.
This is a show? I didn't know this was a show. And so the Brown brothers, who are hysterically funny, came up. We did it on radio.
Yeah.
It goes back to the radio days, and it was real or fake true TV shows. And they put out a list of shows, and it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Well, one of them was wrong. There's an actual real show called MILF Manor. And I said something like, what is this on Brazzers? I don't even know what Brazzers is. I just heard about it. And people are like, whoa. But that's a real show. I didn't know. But the list of shows that they have had that didn't make the cut, my all-time favorite pod, I can say it. Civil War Whores. You know something's funny if 10 years later, just saying it out loud makes you laugh. That is not a real show.
No.
That was a fake show, but Civil War Whores was not a show on any, but it should be, maybe. We could find out about, people that were helping out the soldiers back in the day.
I think they said 30.
Okay, so this week or next?
Tuesday night on the show, we're going to do it on SportsCenter, which
this
we do.
Week?
Yeah. We have to.
I got to get. Oh, that's
this
right.
is the 1 week of True TV. Make sure you have it and write it down because you're going to be flicking games.
All right. So there you go. Reds pawing at the door.
Yeah.
The return of real or fake. Go ahead. You have something on the way.
Yeah,
out.
just real quick. Peacock, you got to get the multi-screen option. You got to get it. You got the Big 12 it was Big East and Big 10 tournament at the same time. Let me split the screen. Figure it out.
Technology. Get your tech people on it.
Yeah. Red's got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. All right, so we need split screen there.
Yep. Enjoy the games.
Who's going to win? You want to give somebody a winner because I don't have one.
For the tournament?
Yeah.
Here's the deal. You can't pick Florida because everyone in your bracket pool is going to pick Florida, and you just got to pray they don't win it. So I would go
Duke.
No, Tennessee, Auburn.
That's the final?
Pick that in your final and hope that happens because you're going to win your bracket pool.
You need them to make it, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hope Florida gets knocked off.
All right. Red's giving me a look. My big fat dog with the ear infection. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you on the TV early. Tuesday night, Real or Fake True TV shows. All right. Civil War whores.